not someone else's talent that sets your direction. It's your past habits, your current excuses, and the standards you've quietly decided are good enough. And because that opponent is internal, it's easy to misidentify the real source of the struggle. It's easy to think life is a competition against other people. It's easy to say the economy is slow, the timing isn't right, the boss is hard to work with, or the critics are unfair. It's easy to point at your circumstances and say, if this were different, then I'd move forward. That belief feels good because it takes responsibility off your shoulders. If the problem is outside of you, then the solution must be outside of you too, and that means you can wait. But waiting has never built wealth, never built a strong body, and never built a sharp mind. Waiting builds frustration. Waiting builds stories. Waiting builds the habit of explaining instead of executing. When you measure yourself against other people, you lose focus. You start tracking their pace instead of fixing your own. You compare their advantages to your disadvantages and call it analysis, when really it's avoidance. That's why comparison becomes more than a habit. It becomes a distraction. Comparison is a subtle distraction. It keeps you busy, measuring, judging, and reacting. But while you're watching someone else's race, your own discipline slowly weakens. You can't build your future by studying someone else's present. You build your future by looking honestly at your own patterns. The real competition isn't you versus them. It's you versus who you used to be. There's a big difference between being interested and being committed. When you're interested in change, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do what's required. Interest negotiates. Commitment decides. Interest says, I'll try. Commitment says, I will. And the gap between those two phrases is often the gap between drifting and actually moving forward. That gap shows up most clearly in the private conversations you have with yourself. The most dangerous negotiations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself. No one else hears them. No one records them. No one challenges them. You tell yourself just this once. You say, I deserve a break. You say, tomorrow will be better. And because there's no one in the room to push back, the deal goes through easily. You walk away feeling justified, but every private agreement shapes your public future. Opposition from the outside can actually push you. A tough competitor can sharpen you. A difficult market can force you to improve. But negotiating with yourself dulls you. It lowers your standards a little at a time. It tells you average is fine. That delay doesn't matter. That effort can wait. There's no applause when you lower your expectations. There's no alarm that sounds when you compromise your own standards. It happens quietly. And it's those quiet moments that matter most. Those quiet agreements are the most powerful ones. The decision to get up when the alarm rings or hit snooze. The decision to finish what you start or leave it half done. The decision to speak with discipline or complain. These choices don't look dramatic. They look normal. But normal decisions, repeated over time, create extreme outcomes, either upward or downward. You have to learn to notice when you're protecting your comfort instead of your potential. Comfort feels safe. It feels earned. It feels reasonable. Potential feels demanding. It requires effort. It stretches you. It pushes you to grow in ways that aren't always convenient. If you're not careful, you'll defend your comfort with convincing arguments. You'll call it balance. You'll call it timing. You'll call it patience. But sometimes it's just fear in polite language. At the root of it, this isn't about circumstances. It's about standards. The truth is simple. You're not held back by what you don't have. You're held back by what you allow. What you allow in your schedule. What you allow in your standards. What you allow in your self-talk. When you tolerate less than your best, you don't stay in the same place. You slide backward. Life doesn't pause while you decide. It responds to what you repeatedly do. If you want different results, stop studying your obstacles and start studying your responses. Stop asking who's ahead and start asking where you're inconsistent. Stop measuring the market and start measuring your discipline. At the end of the day, the battlefield is inside you. The contest is personal. The opponent is familiar. And once you recognize that, the responsibility becomes clear. You versus you. That's the only competition that really determines your direction. Once you accept that, you take your power back. If the problem is inside you, then the solution is too. If the negotiation is internal, then you have the authority to end it. When you decide your old habits won't control your future, you take ownership. And ownership is where progress starts. Not when circumstances improve, not when critics get quiet, not when competition fades. Progress begins when you look at yourself honestly and realize the only standard that truly matters is the one you enforce. When you win there, the outside world has far less power over you. That's the real opponent. And that's where the real win has to happen. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't measured in miles. It's measured in discipline. It's not about dramatic breakthroughs or rare opportunities. It's about what you do on ordinary days when no one is watching, no one is pressuring you, and there's no immediate reward. The gap isn't mysterious, it's behavioral. Because of that, the story we tell ourselves about success can be misleading. We like to imagine success as one big defining moment, a major deal, a big promotion, a breakthrough idea. But those moments, when they come, are just the visible result of invisible preparation. They're the harvest. The disciplines are the planting. And if the planting has been inconsistent, the harvest will show it without emotion and without apology. Success is built in layers. It's small actions repeated long enough that they start to add up. One disciplined day won't change your life. But one disciplined day followed by another, and another starts to change your direction. And direction, sustained over time, changes where you end up. It's rarely one intense effort that transforms someone. It's consistent effort over time. And when that consistency breaks, the cost begins to accumulate. Inconsistency is expensive, not in one big payment, but in small losses from your potential. When you're inconsistent, you restart too often. You rebuild momentum over and over. You regain ground you already had. And while you're regaining it, someone who stayed steady keeps moving forward. The cost of inconsistency isn't always obvious right away. It shows up over the years. Making decisions based on emotion is at the center of the discipline gap. If you act based on how you feel, your behavior will change with your mood. Some mornings you feel driven. Other mornings you feel tired. Some days you feel confident. Other days you feel doubtful. If your actions depend on emotion, your results will be unstable. An unstable effort leads to unstable outcomes. That's why principles matter more than moods. Principle-based decisions are different. A principle doesn't change just because your mood does. A principle says, this is what I do. Not just when it's convenient, not just when it's exciting, not just when people are watching, but consistently. When you live by principle, you remove the daily debate. You don't ask whether you feel like it. You act because it matches your standard. Small lapses are rarely small in impact. Skip one effort and it becomes easier to skip the next. Delay one thing and delay becomes a pattern. Relax one standard and that becomes the new baseline. Identity isn't formed in big speeches, it's formed in repeated behavior. If your behavior is inconsistent, your identity will be unstable. You'll start to see yourself as someone who begins but doesn't finish, someone who intends but doesn't follow through. And once that perception takes hold, it shapes your expectations. That perception is dangerous. Once you see yourself as inconsistent, you start expecting inconsistency. And what you expect, you often deliver. The discipline gap widens, not because you lack ability, but because you've trained yourself to accept fluctuation. You've practiced quitting. You've practiced postponing. And what you practice becomes permanent. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. It rises and falls. It's affected by sleep, weather, conversations, and circumstances. Standards have to be permanent. They have to live with you. They have to guide you when motivation isn't there. If you wait to feel inspired before you act, you'll act less than you intend. But if you act based on your standards, inspiration often follows the effort. In other words, action has to lead. It's easier to act your way into better feelings than to feel your way into better actions. When you start working despite your mood, clarity often comes through movement. Action builds confidence, finishing builds satisfaction, and satisfaction makes it easier to repeat the behavior. That's how discipline compounds, through execution, not emotion. Private habits eventually show up as public results. The book you read alone becomes knowledge and conversation. The workout you finish alone becomes strength and performance. The practice you do when no one sees becomes excellence when everyone is watching. There's no shortcut around repetition. There's no substitute for steady effort. And this brings you back to the real source of the gap. If you really look at the gap between where you are and where you want to be, it usually isn't a lack of information holding you back. It's a lack of consistent application. You already know what to do. You've heard it before. The issue isn't knowledge, it's follow-through. Do you actually do what you know often enough for it to make a difference? The discipline gap shrinks when you take the drama out of progress. You stop chasing big days and start respecting small ones. You stop expecting instant change and start building steady improvement. You stop asking whether it's exciting and start asking whether it's aligned with your standards. When you close the gap one disciplined day at a time, the distance begins to fade. Seen this way, progress becomes practical instead of emotional. Progress is structural. It's built like a wall, one brick at a time. You can't lay all the bricks in a single afternoon. You can't skip the foundation and expect stability. You have to place each piece intentionally. When you do, the structure rises quietly. Others might call it talent. Others might call it luck. But you'll know it was discipline. In the battle of you versus you, the discipline gap is where most losses happen. Not in disasters, not in collapse, but in casual inconsistency. If you want to win, you have to treat your daily disciplines as sacred, not dramatic, not glamorous, sacred, because they decide whether you move forward or stay stuck. Close the gap. Not with emotion, but with action. Not with intention, but with repetition. Over time, the person you're becoming will start to look like the person you once only imagined. You're not a finished product. You're a work in progress. Every single day, you're becoming someone. The real question is whether that process is intentional or accidental. Whether you're building your life on purpose or just drifting without thinking about it. And that process is driven by identity. Identity isn't created in one big decision. It builds up over time. It's the result of repeated evidence. Every action you take is like a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. When you keep a promise to yourself, that's evidence. When you break one, that's evidence too. Your mind keeps track quietly, and eventually it hands you a conclusion. This is who you are. Most people think identity is something they discover. In reality, it's something they show through their behavior. If you consistently act with discipline, you'll start to see yourself as disciplined. If you consistently put things off, you'll start to see yourself as someone who procrastinates. The label doesn't come first. The behavior does. Once the label sticks, it carries weight. And the words you use reinforce that weight. The way you talk about yourself strengthens that identity. When someone says, "I'm just not disciplined," they aren't describing a fixed truth. They're describing a repeated pattern. But the more often they say it, the more permanent it feels. The mind doesn't argue much with first-person statements. It absorbs them. "I am" starts to sound final, even if it's only based on recent behavior. The real danger isn't failing. The real danger is defining yourself by that failure. A short-term mistake turns into a long-term label. A rough week becomes who you are. You make a few inconsistent choices and then decide, "That's just me." Once you accept that story, you start protecting it. You act in ways that confirm it, because being consistent with your identity feels comfortable, even if that identity limits you. That's why self-image matters so much. You can't build a strong future while defending a weak self-image. If you see yourself as unreliable, you'll hesitate to take on responsibility. If you believe you're incapable, you'll avoid challenges that might prove you wrong. Your identity becomes a ceiling, and most ceilings are built by you. Changing your self-image doesn't start with affirmations, it starts with action. Words without evidence feel empty, but repeated action creates proof, and proof is convincing. When you follow through on what you said you'd do, even in small ways, you start building a new record. You gather facts that challenge your old story. That record is what allows identity to shift. If you once believed you had no discipline, and then you wake up early for 30 straight days, that's hard evidence. If you thought you couldn't finish anything, and then you complete a project from start to finish, that's new proof. Identity shifts when the evidence shifts. Not when you hope, not when you wish, when you act. Your environment plays a quiet role in shaping who you become. The people you're around, the conversations you allow, the expectations in your circle, all of it influences the identity you adopt. If you're surrounded by low standards, high standards will start to feel extreme. If you're surrounded by high standards, your current effort might start to feel lacking. Environment doesn't force you, but it nudges you, and repeated nudges change your direction. Because of that influence, you can't afford to be passive about your surroundings. You have to be intentional about the structure around you, the books you read, the conversations you entertain, the routines you accept. None of it is neutral. It all shapes how you see yourself. If you're careless about your environment, you'll be careless about your identity. And if you're careless about your identity, you'll be careless about your future. Being deliberate means you stop saying, "That's just how I am," and start saying, "This is what I'm building." One statement keeps you stuck, the other moves you forward. Construction means choice. It means adjustments. It means responsibility. When you see yourself as a work in progress, mistakes become feedback instead of final judgments. From there, alignment becomes the focus. Who you're becoming is the result of repeated alignment. When your actions match your values, your identity strengthens. When your actions go against your values, you feel internal tension. That tension isn't punishment, it's information. It shows you the gap between who you say you are and what you actually do. That gap will either grow or shrink based on how you respond. Build proof every day. Don't wait for big achievements. Look for small ways to reinforce the identity you want. Keep your word in minor things. Show up when you say you will. Finish what you start. Speak intentionally. Each small action is another brick in your self-image. Over time, that accumulation changes everything. Over time, the evidence builds. The story changes. You don't have to convince yourself you're capable anymore. You have memory. You have results. You have proof. And when that old internal voice tries to drag you back to the previous label, you can answer it with facts. You are always becoming someone. That process never pauses. It doesn't wait for clarity. It responds to repetition. If you repeat avoidance, you become avoidant. If you repeat discipline, you become disciplined. If you repeat courage, you become courageous. The construction never stops. The only question is whether you're holding the blueprint or leaving it to chance. In the battle of you versus you, identity keeps the long-term score. It records what you repeatedly do and reflects it back as who you are. Be intentional about the evidence you're creating. One day you'll look at the structure that's been built and realize it was shaped by your daily decisions. Build on purpose, act in alignment, collect proof, and allow your identity to rise to the standard you choose to enforce. But if you ignore that responsibility, decline rarely looks dramatic at first. Very few people wake up one day and suddenly find their lives completely destroyed. Collapse usually isn't dramatic. It's gradual. It's subtle. It's a slow move away from standards you once held firmly. And because it happens in small steps, you often don't notice until you're far off course. That kind of slide doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for permission. It starts with something that sounds harmless. Just this once. Just today. Just until things calm down. Each phrase feels reasonable. Each decision seems separate. But life doesn't measure your direction by isolated choices. It measures it by repeated ones. Standards rarely collapse all at once. They lower in small, comfortable adjustments. You used to expect excellence from yourself. Now you accept average. You once insisted on finishing strong. Now you're satisfied with finishing eventually. You used to correct yourself quickly. Now you let delays pass. At first, the shift is tiny, almost invisible. But repetition makes it stick. That's where the real danger begins. The effect of just this once builds over time. One exception becomes a new baseline. That baseline becomes permission. Permission becomes a pattern. And the pattern becomes part of who you are. You don't notice the first few degrees of decline. But if you keep heading that way long enough, you'll arrive somewhere you never intended to be. Comfort often disguises itself as earned rest. Real rest is intentional. It has a purpose and a clear endpoint. It restores you so you can return to effort. But unchecked comfort stretches itself out. It convinces you that you deserve more delay. It tells you tomorrow will be a better time to be disciplined. And when tomorrow comes, it says the same thing. That distinction matters. There's nothing wrong with recovery. There is something wrong with excusing stagnation. When comfort replaces growth, you start to feel a quiet dissatisfaction. At first, it's subtle, a sense that you're capable of more, that your effort doesn't match your potential. That feeling isn't outside criticism. It's internal awareness. The early signs of letting yourself down are rarely dramatic. You avoid things you once handled quickly. You make promises you suspect you won't keep. You talk confidently about plans, but hesitate to act. You begin defending your lower standards instead of correcting them. These are signals. And if you ignore them, they multiply. Because of that, the slide feels manageable at first. This gradual decline is dangerous because it feels temporary. You think you can fix it anytime. You tell yourself you're only a few steps away from your previous level. But momentum works both ways. The longer you move downward, the harder it is to turn around. What once required a small correction now demands serious discipline. There's an emotional cost to this slow decline too. When you know you're capable of more but keep delivering less, tension builds. You might distract yourself. You might compare yourself to others to feel better. But the awareness doesn't go away. It shows up in quiet moments. It shows up when you see someone else moving forward. It reminds you that you're not operating at your best. Over time, that tension turns into something heavier. Regret rarely comes from one missed opportunity. It builds from repeated inaction. It's the result of small chances you didn't take. It's the memory of days when you knew what to do, but chose not to. Regret compounds, just like discipline does. The longer you postpone correction, the heavier it becomes. It's much easier to correct your direction early than to rebuild after years of slow decline. A small adjustment now prevents a major overhaul later. If you notice your standards slipping, don't defend it. Don't justify it. Fix it. Raise the bar again. Recommit to what you once expected from yourself. Otherwise, what feels temporary becomes permanent. If you leave this gradual lowering of standards unchecked, it becomes your direction. What starts as a temporary compromise turns into your routine. And routines shape average results. If you want exceptional outcomes, you can't allow slow erosion. You have to watch your habits honestly. You have to confront yourself without excuses. The battle of you versus you is often decided in these quiet moments. Not in dramatic failure, but in what you repeatedly tolerate. If you accept small lapses again and again, you train yourself to settle for mediocrity. If you correct small lapses quickly, you train yourself to stay strong. That's why timing matters. There's urgency in small corrections, not panic, but seriousness. Every day reinforces a direction. You're either tightening your standards or loosening them. You're either strengthening discipline or weakening it. Neutral doesn't last long. Even slow movement takes you somewhere. Look clearly at your current path. If you continue exactly as you are, where will it lead? The answer isn't hidden. It's revealed in what you repeat. If you don't like that direction, change it now. Don't wait for a crisis to force discipline on you. Discipline rarely appears on its own, it's chosen. And that choice doesn't have to be dramatic. This gradual slide is quiet. Your correction can be quiet too. A renewed commitment, a restored standard, a firm decision not to let small compromises stack up. If you win the small daily battles against decline, you avoid the bigger battles that come from neglect. In the end, you won't regret the effort it took to stay aligned. You'll regret the seasons when you knew you were slipping and chose not to correct course. Adjust early, correct firmly, and don't let temporary comfort become permanent direction. Because the outcome is decided long before it's visible. Victory in the battle of you versus you isn't loud. There's no parade, no applause. It's decided quietly, daily, and privately. Long before anyone else sees results, the decision has already been made in small, unseen moments. If you want to win that battle, you have to design your days intentionally. Morning isn't just the start of time. It sets the direction for the day. If you wake up without a plan, the day will give you one. And most assigned plans are driven by urgency, not importance. To win privately, you have to start deliberately. That deliberate start changes